Ladies and gentlemen, Wren Barnes is about to come on and really strategize with your creativity and your business to be able to monetize your content. And this woman is a powerhouse actress and just doing amazing things in the world of movies and films. So definitely stick around. It's going to be an amazing interview. Before we dive into that, I just want to say thank you so much for being here, for choosing to be and become your greatest possible self, taking one step at a time. That's how we do it. And we keep growing, keep showing up. And just remember, you already have everything that you need within you. You are equipped. You are worthy. You deserve anything that you desire, your mission, your purpose, your dream life. You deserve it all. So just keep showing up, have the patience, take massive action, and be your GPS. I'm going to introduce Wren in just a sec. Before that, grab a piece of paper, grab a pen, be ready to take notes. Chances are you're going to hear some gold nuggets that you can take massive action on and that could really transform your life. So stick around all the way through to the end because one of these ideas has the power to change everything. Wren Barnes was born in Northern California and raised in rural East Tennessee. She got her bachelor's in business administration from UCF, her film acting degree from Manhattan, New York, and she is an award-winning screenwriter, an award-winning actress, and she's in the process of launching her first book. Her book focuses on how to set boundaries to reach your goals. She is sometimes in front of and other times behind the camera, but mostly working on the business side before cameras are ever even on the ground. She specializes in understanding the creative roles in filmmaking in conjunction with contracts, bank expectations, distribution, marketing, finance, accounting, and so many other pieces to put together a high-budget independent film, ultimately taking your vision or dream and turning it into reality. Wren uses strategy and forecasting to best prepare each project for profitability and success, and she specializes in getting film funding in hand for even first-time screenwriters or filmmakers. Personally, she enjoys cooking and swimming every day, as well as traveling around the world. Wren, are you ready to rock the house, Superwoman? Absolutely. It is a pleasure to have you here. We're going to have a lot of fun today. And we start off this theme of the marathon with the question, which is your message to millions. Wren, what does that mean for you, your message to millions?
Well, what I love about filmmaking is storytelling, and you can share a message through that. And I'm able to be brought these great stories and not kind of verbatim bullet point a message. You weave it into real situations that we can imagine we could be ourselves in, even that, even if we've never been, and we can learn from that, from the stories of other people, and we can kind of take them away from their lives for 2 hours and kind of bring them into these stories. And I love intentionally sharing positive messages for
Yeah,
sure.
I love it. I love it. I love that you're empowering people through the work that you're doing, equipping visionaries and people, creatives, with the actual how to. How do you actually execute on this? How do you really bring this vision to life so that we can bring this creation and serve people? And I think it's so beautiful when the movie both kind of helps people. It could be escape, but helps people enter into a world where they get to like create their own fantasy, where they get to relate with the hero of the story or the protagonist and temporarily kind of forget whatever problems that they're having and step into that power, that aliveness, that happiness, that joy, whatever fulfillment that's a part of the movie.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a real joy, and I feel that I have a real calling and like purpose in doing this specifically be a film producer. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of hats you wear.
Yeah.
And I really I'm hoping that people today might hear of what I do, and maybe they or their friends or family, I might be able to help in the future. So this is what it's all about.
Yes, I love it. I love it. Let's dive into more. What do you stand for in the projects that you work on? I mentioned it in your intro, but in your own words, how do you serve your clients and help them bring these movies to life?
Well, there's a lot of work. It ends up looking like thousands of pages of documentation before
Wow.
a film is ever made, whether it's contracts, legal negotiations. I call them vendors, third parties that are attached to the project from the beginning. And I mean, that budget ends up being like 150 pages of all
Yeah.
these different people to hire. So,
Wow.
so the way I kind of see it is like if you've ever seen an orchestra play,
Mhm.
you're the conductor up there. You know when to bring in the violins, when to, the trumpets come in.
Yeah.
So there's really a lot to it, and I really want to reach. If I understand the question correctly, what you're
Mhm.
asking, who I'm trying to reach, is that what you're
Yeah,
asking,
yeah. How
or?
do you serve your clients? Who do you serve?
Okay, so really the right people that I would be able to help is, say you're a screenwriter. Okay,
Mhm.
so that would be perfect because a lot of scripts, they either get bought and for like 25K or something and put in a vault for 20
Mhm.
years and never seen, or some producers option it, which means, hi, I own this. You have no rights to do anything with it as a writer, and then you hope something happens in a few years. And a lot of
Mhm.
writers come to me once they get them back. Or let's say you get this great studio deal. You're like the 0.001% of all the writers out there. Wow, this big studio wants to do it. And it can easily totally change your message.
Mhm.
I know a good example in the Christian community is we weren't happy with Noah when it came out a really long
Mhm.
time ago because we go, we've heard that story before. This is nothing like this. And then what's interesting is when you actually talk with the producer that did it, they go, why'd you do this? He goes, you should have seen the script before, how bad it was before I even had changes. So like you can
Wow.
only imagine. And so what I love to tell people from the start is my job is not to change your story. My job is to empower you, but to make it more marketable.
Mm.
So sometimes the feedback from the distribution companies is, well, let's put planes in here instead of trains. Just something like, because we can get a sponsorship or something that makes sense, like a way to monetize it. And so I think when I sent in the title, did it have monetizing in the title instead of profitable? I don't remember.
It had
But
both of them. Yeah, profit and monetize.
okay, because it's so interesting because like as a film producer, you really can't promise a profit, right? I mean,
Mm.
like there's all these guidelines I have to be aware of and all these laws, just kind of SEC guidelines. And you don't want to promise, but really, if you are a first time filmmaker and you make a huge loss,
Mm.
then your chances of making another film is really low. So
Mm.
my job is to kind of be on the business side and ramp you up for success and empower you making direct decisions. If you're coming to me as the director with the script or the writer, let's get you paid
Mm.
out of the budget and get the right message told and not changed all around.
Good. So I totally want to reemphasize the disclaimer, just because the title says making profitable content, we're not promising, not guaranteeing that.
And man, that is the goal because really it's, any profit is revenue minus expenses.
Right.
So the problem is you come up with all these ideas as a writer. That's
Yeah.
the creative, the vision.
Yep.
And then we have to work through what's realistic because
Mm.
I'm dealing with the really rigid bank people that are like, they want to see numbers, they want to
Yep.
see analytics, they want to see, so then we have to kind of weave that together what works. So
Yeah, I love it. I love it. I want to go back into your journey, Wren. Talk about your early career in the film industry. Like, what kept you going? What drove you? What were you inspired by? What were you aspiring to be?
well, when I was a child, I just right away knew this was what I needed to do at like 7 or 8 years old.
Wow.
And so I was really blessed that right away I played young Dolly Parton with Dolly Parton in a commercial for her theme park, which I mean,
Wow.
so I got to actually play her. She said, I remember when I was a little girl and then it was me skipping around. And I also got to work with some really big actors at the young age, like Jake Gyllenhaal in October Sky and things like that.
Mm.
And so, but I had this vision at the age of like 15 where God told me directly that your life purpose is to help these writers get money together and make films. And so
Wow.
like there's this thing of like integrity. To
Mm.
me, integrity is really, really important to me. I don't care if it takes 20 years, I'm going to be around doing this, but we're going to do it the right way.
Yep.
And unfortunately in this industry, there's so many ways not to get your film made. There's
Mm.
so many ways not to make money. And
True.
the game is changing faster more than ever.
Mm.
I mean, we know all theaters are closed right now. I
Mm.
mean, what if we're in contract to for sure have a theatrical release this month or next month? I mean, it's just like you couldn't even predict that.
Yeah.
And so it's just the industry's changing so fast. And you just got to be really careful in my world to under promise and over deliver, but totally be like, hey, I'm here with you. I want you to win.
Wow. Wow, I love it. So in the beginning, you knew, like at 15 years old, you were bringing this service to the world
Yeah,
of connecting,
mhm.
filmmakers with the money to bring their vision to life. And you also are doing it in a way that's like, hey, I know my reputation, number one, is like super important, and also like my soul, my ethics, my integrity, doing things like in the highest good, in like the way that God would smile and be like, yes, great job, Wren, great job everyone for bringing this forward in a way that
Exactly.
benefits humanity. It's
No,
so
and I
important.
totally want to not, and I'm happy to walk away when it gets weird. You know, if
Mm,
people are telling me doing a 180 and
yeah.
saying, "Oh yeah, we're going to do it this way," it's like I can't. Or they give me a script, and I got offered really good money last month to do something that my integrity. I told this guy like, this is not good,
Yeah.
and we've got to change these things. And so that's another way I empower people. Is I may say we need to make this change, but if they take a year to go, oh, I'll make it now. And we're
Mm,
a year, it's in delay. But I do want to mention that I did get I was able to get over $100,000 for a first time screenwriter that had a really great story,
mm,
that we're still ramping that up to get a more multi-million dollar budget, for example. And so
wow.
I do love to know that, hey, we're not going to change this around because of the content. We're
Wow.
not going to make this go another way. And so I've been just kind of there, doing those business conversations, and letting them know what's standard too. If they get a contract, I'm like, that is not standard. Don't sign it. Let's wait. Let's. But I always say I'm not a lawyer.
Right.
Okay, my stuff. But when you sat in those long form contract,
Yep.
conference calls with London and LA, and you on the phone, and you've heard it and you've seen it, you go, okay, that you don't want to lose out on all your residual money you'd make years from now and
Yep.
things like that. So,
Yep. Wow.
there's
Is
just-
it? Would you say it's difficult to find like the money and the people who like get the vision and are willing to do it without like I don't know, hurting people and taking advantage of people? Is that more the normal, and the rarity is like finding the good people, or is it just knowing where to look, or what would you recommend around that?
that's a good question. Yeah, so I'll talk about a little bit about, just mentioned finding the money, and then you talked about, we're going to talk about like a good client, like the right kind of client. And then I want to talk about, yeah, people come to me and go, oh, Wren, wow, you're for real, you're really for real, wow, you're doing this, you're not BSing or whatever. This is where I'm glad that people can tell that I get right to the point. I'm all about contracts and moving forward, and all this kind of stuff with the projects, and doing what I said I'm going to do. And I do get that feedback. But yeah, this is an industry where I am completely blown away
Mm,
with con artist people I run into, like that they would fly across the world to impersonate an investor, or just weird, bizarre things. And I was a very, very, very famous partner with a famous director, and I'm very careful about dropping names. But I was just telling someone today, he asked me to do something sexual the first time I met with him.
mm,
Something, it's very common in this industry, and it's just really like, really, and it's literally telling those people like, hey, I met you to do business with you, I met you at an investors conference, and they're like, no, well, I want you to come over and do this, and you're
mm,
like, no. And so it's like this thing where, like, again, with my book is about saying no to get your yeses. It's like, if
wow.
you truly know what your yes is, you're going
Mm,
to keep on, not 99 times,
mm,
but 100 times. You're going to just keep saying no. I'm
mm,
going to wait for the blessings to come at the right time that are meant to be. So as a client goes, you sure see red flags with clients too. I would say an ideal client, and I think this is good for the creative people out there, because
mhm,
you're going, okay, I'm creative, I think I've got something, and it doesn't just have to be screenwriting. It could be a book that
right.
we could make into a script. It could be a comic we can turn into a TV series or an animation. So there's all this cross, right?
Mm,
In the creative world, they have this great idea, but I would tell the creatives out there, if they were listening right now, you really want to be workable. You want to be malleable.
mm,
You want to be easy to work with,
yep.
because when you come to the table with real people that could fund millions of dollars for your project,
Yep.
and you're arguing, you're like difficult, you're like unwilling to change a character. What if you had a really famous person that said they were in, you had to tweak the character a bit to adapt. The writer's throwing a fit about it. You're scaring off the banking people that they live in the world of facts.
Yeah.
Numbers, facts, numbers, facts. You got the creative person, very, very feeling, intuitive, emotional, which is great, except that we know that feelings always change.
Mm,
You wouldn't have had all these people on here today talking about healing and meditation if we didn't need it every day.
mm,
Because we
mm,
have to go, wait, let's get back to what's real, is, I am light, or, whatever
yeah,
basic space you can get to. Like, I want to do good,
yeah.
but there's hope. I'm going to be optimistic. But then, so me, I'm in between that. And I
Mm,
really think that's my niche that I
mm,
offer. As I deal with bankers, they go, okay, Wren, you're smart, I trust you. And then I kind of disseminate I kind of break down the hour-long conversation with the writer,
Yep.
the facts to the banks, or the banks go, oh gosh, this is da 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 da. I don't want to do this, and it's like it's me going, well, can we do it this way? And they're like, yeah. And I'm going back to writers like, hey, I've got a solution. So I love it.
It's beautiful. I love that you're owning that being the bridge, you know, and I think that's what's needed. And also being the bridge in integrity and doing it with like the right values. Cause I think that's another thing that sets you apart in the industry, you know?
I do not want to steal. I do not want to lie. I really want to do what's right. And it's taking those extra steps for sure. Yeah. I have to work fast too. So whatever. So I just got to go, okay. You know, there is a certain part of like, all the right things coming together at the right time. But it's with everything, is it not? I mean, you could be talking to a dating coach right now. Timing is huge in a lot of things. So being patient and enjoying the journey and know that we'll get there. You know, have people on your team that believe in it, that want you to get there.
So having that malleable, flexible kind of mentality and way of being, that's going to make someone easy to work with, so to speak. And how does that relate to also knowing your boundaries? Because I can imagine that could be difficult to do both, of saying, yeah, you know, whatever you want, you know, director, marketer, bank, like I'll do whatever you want. I'll jump through whatever hoops you want. And the complete opposite of that is, no, I'm not changing anything. This is the way it's meant to be. Like, I refuse to negotiate. Like, how do we live in both of those worlds?
Well, something that came to mind when you asked that is, you know, may your yes be yes and your no be no. So that means when someone gives you a ton of information, like we have to do it this way, and that's not what you want to hear, but make sure you're listening before you respond. Because what I find in this industry is there's these, it's just why I don't really truly believe in like saying yes to everything, because there's a certain point where if you're not desperate out there and you're getting just huge like I have gotten so many great opportunities in the past 24 hours. I mean, it's amazing. And you got to learn what you're really saying yes to, time wise and in with integrity. You don't just say yes to everything, because then your whole team is there holding you accountable, saying you said yes, you would do this. So I mean, the thing is, though, is it's like I find that at the end of the day, people might go, you know, they may be this type of person that really want this really like gooey, just happy little person, you know. It's like, but it's not. It's like, but would you want that person if she's lying to you? You know what I mean? Or like gonna go, oh yeah, we can do it, and then you figure out it's a lie. So like what I find is long term, people might go, wow, she's a firecracker. Like she's a powerhouse or whatever. But then long term they go, but you're honest. But you're telling me, I'd rather communicate and say, hey, I got some bad news. They don't want to do it anymore. They don't like this. But it's true, because it's like, then what's next? And as you know, successful people take a failure and they just keep moving on. They don't go, oh no, they said no, and then they go and never try again. You go, well, I guess no one wants my script, and then they work a job 20 years, and then they're stuck later in life with the what ifs. What if I kept plugging in and trying?
So I hear like really being honest with people is something that allows them to make more effective decisions and choices, because they get to this place of, say that again?
Well, I said that's part of empowering someone.
Yes.
Is, hey, I want to make sure from the beginning you're legally protected. I don't want your IP. Like, you're good, but then also like that's the info. Let's problem solve. So I think a lot of statistically men are more thinkers and women are feelers, and then statistically like men are more problem solvers. But I'm a problem solving strategic woman. So I'd rather address the issue. Let's solve it. Let's find another way. Let's take a paradigm shift and find another solution.
And it's seeing the possibility and the potential within things, and saying, okay, like here's what has to actually be done to get to that place. Like, let's talk about like boots on the ground, real world strategy, what needs to be done, versus like pie in the sky, or you know, that like being so far out there is just not communicating what needs to be communicated. And then like people think that there's hope and that there is like something, that potential there, when we haven't addressed a core root issue that's totally going to derail the project later on if we haven't yet addressed it.
Exactly. I'll give you a good example with budgets. There are certain genres that make the most money, and that genre happens to be the genre that can be made for the least amount of money. So there are certain genres that, you know, you factor in all these different things. So if I have a writer saying, I am set that this, like I had a writer come to me and say, I'm set that this budget's $20 million. Well, it's the genre that can be made for the least amount of money. Did it make sense that if they, because that budget is higher than what we're doing now, because we're making more and more content faster for a least amount of money. Think about what's going on right now with COVID-19. Everyone's at home. We are running through our Netflix shows. Okay. Come a couple months from now, I see this is as a producer, what I told a writer the other day. I forecast that there's going to be a huge demand for new content in 3 months, because we're going to come out of this and it's the citizens, like people who are the watchers, the audience. They're going to say, "We want more shows. We want more shows," and they're going, "Okay, let's pump out more shows." Wow. So, but anyways, I forgot what was I. Did I answer the question? Or I don't know.
It was I think I really wanted to dive into the boundaries of like what to say yes to and what to say no to, and how to like really enforce those.
Let's do it.
Yeah. So like, is there anything that, as far as a framework or what our audience could like understand or know moving forward to make better choices on their boundaries, where would you start with that?
Well, I would say I want to address some misnomers in this space, because you'll run into people. So first of all, one I'll talk about is there are toxic people out there that will fight you on your boundaries. And you have to realize those people are not really your friends if they're trying to manipulate you to get something, and they're not respecting your space. Number two, I'll say, people will say, you can't, if you're busy trying to be friends with everyone, you're not being a good friend to yourself.
Yep.
And so it's like, when you learn, like, I'm going to be a friend of me. And so what I've learned, and there's just different, situations you might be in, but that's a chapter title I have, is how you need to. And so people get all into, well, that's not nice. It's like, well, it's not nice for me to not care about myself. If someone's crossing that boundary. And so, again, it could be as simple as someone who doesn't have much of a social life and they're a housewife, but they need to learn to set bounds with their husband and their children to get what you want. Because the definition of insanity is keep doing the same thing, and kind of understanding some things about psychology, which is a lot about realizing that, like, respecting yourself is good. You need to be consistently respecting yourself. I love this metaphor that our bodies are like a house, and so we might have grass in our yard and a fence around the yard. Well, we know why a fence is up. It's not to keep out your friends. It's to keep out the wolves or the predators, right? And so you understand more about, what's okay to be in your yard. Like, sure, bunnies are fine in my yard, but bunnies aren't fine in my house. And so unfortunately, I run into, like, when I lived in Los Angeles last year, I think 8 weeks straight, strangers came up and touched me. 8 weeks straight, every day. And I tell that to men, and most men go, wow, I've never had that happen to me. So when that starts happening, you start learning to say, I found the most common thing I said when I lived in Los Angeles last year is, please don't touch me. And so I feel like that's not a norm for everyone, but it's one of those things, because I'm working with integrity, you find that once people cross one line, take another and another, they go, oh, that she was okay with that, let's do another. And so when I hear women tell stories, they usually start with, and this is the part of the story where I should have said something. And then they ask for a ride, and then I realized I didn't really know who was in my car, and then they're asking me to drop them off somewhere, and then they asked me to carry this inside their house. Before I knew it, how did I end up in this person's house? Because someone else was there and they had a knife, and you're going, damn, oh my goodness. So it's kind of this thing in society where you go, when someone says, can I have a ride? It's like, yeah, if you let me take a picture of your driver's license. And they're like, no. You're like, okay. And then so sometimes people will call you out when you're smart enough to address it right away.
Wow.
And they start fighting with you. And then they might be like, well, Wren is so difficult. And it's like, oh, but I know where that goes, because maybe you've never seen it where it goes, but I have. And so I have a right to go, okay, I've been here before. Let's share some knowledge with people. Or I've heard enough stories of women or men just, you got to kind of, assertiveness is good. It's finding that balance between passivity and aggression. Just being assertive enough to learn to say your no. So there's a workbook part of my book. We're going to work through things and find a way for you to communicate it best for you.
Yeah, I think it's so important. I hear you're really coming in as a mentor and a teacher who's like seen things that, like, let's say naive and innocent people haven't seen before, and you really get to like say, hey, like I love that you're so nice, I love that you're so kind, and like not everyone in the world is that way, and you just
No,
get to be
realizing they're not all like you.
right,
Exactly.
right, and you get to be prepared for that. Like, what can you actually do to equip yourself for that? Because oftentimes I think people don't care about it until it's like until the boundary has been crossed so much, and they're like, I will never let this happen again.
Right. Yep. And so we also learn how to reverse engineer to that point,
Yeah.
and also be able to see the things and learning. It's just this thing where you have to be willing to say it's better to go alone than have somebody that could really hurt me over time.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
so
It's
and
huge.
also business now it's like I do a lot of things where, okay, I will help you, but we have to sign a contract. And
Mm,
sometimes I work for a long time on delayed compensation. It might be really good paying 5-figure or more compensation,
right.
but it's like, no, we need to sign this. And so if they're not willing to even sign, it's like, I wish you well,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
So, there you
It's like
go.
someone shows how committed and serious they are based on like how willing they are to play ball, how much like they trust you, right? It's like saying, "Hey, well, if you're not willing to sign on this like right at the beginning of the relationship, like you're going to be a pain in the ass or potentially later on down the road. So like why would we even keep going? Let's just call it as it is. It's not going to work. It's not a fit. It's not an alignment, and I'm creating space for the people who are a heck yes and like totally love working with me and love me being the skills and bring the skill set
Make
to help
more
them get
room
there.
for what you want to be in your life. So
Yeah.
you remove yourself less from what you don't want, and you make room to open it up for what you do. You can
Yeah.
identify it better.
Yeah.
And I'd really like to speak more in in public,
Yeah.
and teach people how to do this. And it's all about being safe and respected,
Hmm.
and have to say it's a lot about safety
Yep.
for creating that in your life. So,
Yeah.
unfortunately, and again, it does debunk a little bit of law of attraction. I'm sure you've had a bunch of people on here that are super pro law of attraction.
Hmm.
But here's the thing is, you attract sometimes because you just attract,
Hmm.
and you can't, so it's like it's like thieves don't break into empty houses. It's
Hmm.
like if you have got something really nice that, unfortunately, you realize the narcissist is going to
Hmm.
go, oh, I want to take that. The
Hmm.
same way someone sees your nice car, they want to steal it. Or someone gets jealous of your nice car, they want to ruin it or something.
Right.
It really is you got to get real. We're not going to live in la la land. It's about a little bit about being real and going like, well, maybe that person just wants what I have, or they want to destroy it because they can't have it.
Hmm.
And recognizing that, because there's a lot of blame game. How did you attract it? Well, I get asked out on dates every day,
Hmm.
multiple dates every day. And the
Hmm.
amount of stories I could tell you how all these guys did it wrong,
Hmm.
or they weren't really willing to respect my boundaries, or acting in a way that, oh, well, you can't be more successful than me and I'm going to put you down. It's probably a lot of immaturity as well.
Sure.
But it's like, you just got to go, okay, sometimes that's about you throwing a fit because you're not getting what you want.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's powerful. I want to talk about profitability or monetization as the better term, monetization of content. Like where do we really start with that, especially for the creatives out there who are wanting to make progress on that?
Yeah. So the thing you'll realize in film real quickly is there's a lot of ideas and there's only so many people with money. And
Mm,
a lot of the real big bank, I'll say the big studios more than the big banks.
mm,
You have to be really big in this game to go through their way. And they're going to likely, unfortunately, in this industry, a lot of people steal ideas.
mm,
Um, and that's pretty notorious for that. And there's very few things you can guarantee. So what we have to do with a writer is we have to get some numbers in place to get realistic costs
mhm,
to be able to find out what, you know, even though if we can make it for $8 million and maybe we need to make it for two, so we
yeah,
could, because it's more realistic, you're going to make 3 million
yep,
instead of saying let's make it for eight, and if you're lucky you make seven and you're not making your money back because it's going to be that much harder to do your next one because you're going to show that you're not profitable, plus you're
mm,
not going to make good money, and
mm,
it's going to long term not work out really good for you. So
mm,
I find that what I have is I have a lot of relationships with special groups of people that fund.
mm,
And again, kind of in line with my book, the people that tend to emotionally invest in film are feelers. they tend to be the con artists, actually, a lot of times, or they're the people like, oh, I feel good about Brad Pitt in this movie, or sorry, I didn't mean to say a name, but a name. And then they kind of feel good about you.
Right.
Kind of want to feel, so you get that whole, I'm like, let's stay far away from that. And so to me, it's like, I get down to the facts. Like, if I have this signed, and if I have this form, and if the writer will do this, and if we do these things, it equals this avenue. But maybe you don't want to go that way. We can go a totally different route. This person only needs this, this, and this, but not this. And so we go through these ways of getting hundreds of thousands of dollars or millions of dollars, like legally with a lawyer, all that stuff set up, business set up, and we make sure it's all good. But there's, only so many people that do that. And I have contracts with them in relationships, so that when I'm giving advice to these creatives, I want them to win. But sometimes I have to just say, this is so far in left field. I don't think it works. And I have to say, like, come back to me if you have something else in the future. I wish you the best, but I can't help you. And then other times I'm like, oh, like someone called me up. He's the CEO of a very successful company. He's willing, there's all these different scenarios, right? He's willing to self-fund it. And when he told me the storyline, it was based on something that actually happened, that was famous, that he was involved with. And I've never heard of it before. And there was something that paralleled that came out 5 years ago that I went, that was really successful. So I was like, okay, I'm really interested in that. Let's talk about that more. And there's different ways of getting your movie shown and marketed. So I have a bachelor's. I got a scholarship in broadcasting, and then I also won the at graduation for honors sales and marketing within my business administration degree. So I really think about, how can I make this marketable? How can we get people in seats? Who's our audience? Who wants to see this? And also, like, some scripts, they're so all over the place. It makes their demographic so small. We want to make sure that, and that's another thing. It's like, I can get money right for a writer if you want to do a vanity, and that's the debt that goes to you. I mean, if that's what you really want to do, or you have money and you want to make it, we can talk about that. But as far as, making sure it's going to be profitable, we want to make sure it's set up for success. And I have all these partners that come on and handle different aspects. It could be a fashion designer that's donated wardrobe. Or it could be, a lot of times I do a lot of state and national tax. So I go through and do the bankable paper with getting the cash rebates and the tax incentives, get them bankable. We set up the company in a special way that's the right way for a film, so that we do the payout schedule. But the great news is you really can make a film and sell it off 10 years from now and get a big check. So it's one of those things that you can get residual income on. I feel like it is a good investment versus, like, there's just nothing else that exists that, like, I think Blair Witch is an overused example, but it was made for so little, and Sony bought it for 40 million. So, I mean, what else other investment could you make for 10, 20K on your home camera and make $40 million? So, I mean, it's kind of like, to me, it's a fun thing to do. It's not the the most risk adverse investment if you're like an equity investor. But it can be a good way, like a diversified stock portfolio, if you were if you really had that kind of money and you wanted to be in that space. I mean, I'm not a financial advisor, I'll say that. But I did say, it is one of the most risk adverse. It is one of the more riskier things to invest in, the truth, which I think it's also educating screenwriters. Like, if you get a $30,000 loan from the bank or $30,000 equity, you still have to pay it back. And so there's this misconception that, oh, I want equity. It's like, they both go in the bank. They both have to be paid back. The difference is if you're getting $300,000 from an equity investor, a lot of times they want a 20 or 30% ROI. And a lot of times I can get these loans for 5 or 6%, for example. Can't promise that. But it's like, and they get really upset, and it's like, so there's a certain point where, like, screenwriters, if they come where they work hard, they've got some already, like, hey, I already have this famous actor attached, these exciting things to it. It's much easier to work with that, I find. So
I want to talk about, for someone who's like a hobbyist to be a screenwriter? Like, what do you work with those people as well? Like, I'm curious as far as, do you only work with the most hardcore who have like been dedicated to this for years, or we have a lot of people out there who just like want to share their story or get that out to the world. What is the variety of experience that you work with?
I know some people where their family gave them like $100,000 and they just went and made a movie and they didn't care if they made it back. I mean, there are those people.
Yeah.
And but for me, why spend $50,000 making a short film when you could spend $50,000 doing a feature? Because think about it, Chris, if you wanted to watch a short film right now, where would you go? You know where to go if you want to see a feature, right? A bunch of places. So they're not, again, when you're looking at the profitability, we find a way to take, I just wouldn't spend my time except unless it was like a SAG, like a union short film and it paid well. And I wanted, which I did take that on, but even a bigger company now wants to turn that into a feature. So really, I find that there's all this stuff. And you wanted to talk about boundaries. Did you want to talk more about boundaries?
Let's dive in. Yeah, wherever the conversation goes, let's rock it.
I feel like I've had like over 1,000 conversations with producers, directors. If you're a director, I can help you. If you're a writer, you're another producer. The only problem is it's kind of like producers sometimes want to say, you meet them and they're like, I got it handled. You're like, okay. But then they still come back to you. But they don't want to pay you. That's kind of funny. It's like, okay, one or the other. You either need to like work together with me and I can help you, or you got it. It's but yeah, I just have done that so long. So what would you like to talk about now? I just didn't.
I love it. I did have a question. I had a question. As far as the writing process of writing a script, like what is the process typically to get that done, to get that like produced? What's the timeline? Like what should someone be expecting?
And so rushing a film out, I would say, would be 18 months on an indie film. Okay. I mean, really rushing it, because you think about, you're in 3 months in post-production, the sound and all that. 3 months till it hits theater. Another you got to advertise it till it hits theaters. And it's really as much as when you come to a project with me and it's got all these things already working pieces and you just need a little bit. I got this project that said, hey, Wren, we have this many million equity in the bank and this very, very famous A-lister as the leading role. And we have this extra money coming in from here, but we just need a producer to help us with the more LA relationships and how. I'm like, I'm in, that's great, because really it's very hard to get an equity or the big time actor attached. Now that's easy for me, but you come to me and you just say, hey, I'm a first time screenwriter and I don't want to take any risks. It's like, well, that's real difficult. It's like, or if they're just very hard-headed, because I mean, to me, I don't feel like I asked for a lot, but they're difficult. Then it's just you're on it. It's very hard to make a film with just one person. You know what I mean? You really are working together with other people. So what's interesting is a script even changes, and some writers don't realize this. You could be on set, money in the bank, crew on ground, actors are saying their lines, director's like action. And then the actor just says it, the phrase different because it's natural for the character. Your script just changed. And so it's like they have this idea that they won't change it at all. And it just is a moving. But the interesting thing is budgets do too. I mean, you could be on set and an extra doesn't show up, so you're minus that money. And you had to order extra catering because there's more vegans on set, so you add money. So it's like this very hard, it's hard. It's harder than just a regular business thing because you have this like these constant variables. It's just a lot to think of. And so what I also want to say, it's really difficult when people don't want to pay me too, because the amount of hours you put in is kind of mind-boggling. I'm just glad that God has blessed me. I'm good with multitasking, decently. For this, because people say you can just do one thing, but I am a one award-winning screenwriter, so I can look at a script and tell some basic things. I am an award-winning actress. I actually won that for being in a musical, the lead in a musical, and I was dancing, so I can dance, I can kind of sing, I can act, and so I really have a creative degree, which is the acting film one, and then I do have this very, and I've worked for a CPA. I've done corporate audits for a year and a half. I have, I've had six figures in two industries, in film and in the medical world, actually respiratory.
Wow.
I was a manager in the respiratory hospital work. That's another story. But, a lot of that transfers over with understanding, the red tape behind red tape behind red tape in hospitals.
Yeah.
And then you go to film and go, I think this is not good. We need to check with a lawyer. I don't want to take that. We can't even chance that. And so you kind of have to take those extra steps. But, I want to be doing this for 20 years. Yeah. This is like my career. This is my thing. So part of that is I want to be around. I want to do the right thing.
You're involved in a lot of different projects, Wren. And I'm curious, like what is it that drives you today? Like to say yes to a project? What kind of things inspire you? What kind of projects are you like a heck yes, I want to be a part of this?
I'm happy to say no if it's not a good fit. I did it yesterday. Mm-hmm. But when I got a call from Canada yesterday that said they had money in the bank. They wanted to hire me to do this. They wanted me to head up their film thing. I say, wow. She said, I've researched you. I do this. I want you to handle the film. I'm doing the music. Great. Awesome. Love to talk. Let's meet. Let's talk about it. But it's like, to me, I think if I'm an actor, if I'm a performer, I really am careful to look at that character, because I find a big thing that matters most in life is our heart. Where is our heart? Yeah. And where's our intention, and where's our motivation behind that? So sometimes, like, if you want me to play the bad guy, well, a plot goes, it goes up and there's this climax, and, that's a typical plot line. But it's like, am I the bad guy, but I'm being shown as the bad guy? Or am I the bad guy and I am teaching the kids, like, hey, kids, be a bad guy, which I have gotten a script like that. Wow. It's like, basically you're encouraging kids to commit suicide. And it's like, dude, I can't do this. Like, I don't get it. Like, it's kind of just, some of this stuff doesn't make sense. But, business wise, I really want to be independent and sell, I want to be able, there's a push for me to stay independent, to be independent, take responsibility for my life. And part of that is, I'm very open to good opportunities and where they go and what's right for me, because I know my skills, they kind of transcend over different layers of industries.
Right.
But as far as discerning, I want to work with people that have integrity. I think we just kind of have to discern who that person is, if they're telling you the truth, if they're going to be transparent, if it's going to be a good time. And I like to manage expectations. Mm-hmm. It's very important, because I've also had a writer say, well, I want this budget. And I told her right from the beginning, that's a weird number for that genre. That doesn't make sense. We'll have to change that. And then she said, well, I want 3 funding offers in the next 24 hours if I sign your contract for $600,000. I'm a first-time writer. I said, you are going to be lucky if in 10 years you get 3 people going, hi, unknown person, here's $600,000. And so she thought I was crazy. Yeah. And so sometimes you just go, that's fine, because I can't make you happy, best wishes. Right. And like, she's just going to learn that, I guess, or not. But that's another thing is, there's a certain part of what's fun and what's happy. And I like to travel. So I'm all about going to set different places. Yeah. I love to create characters that I see the world watching that movie and going, wow, I learned something through that story. Yes. And I'm really inspired by that. But also the people you meet along the way, the opportunities to help people and serve people and be just, you tell these little, like, imagine like an engine and there's all these like things rolling together, and just being a good, I want to say porker in the thing, like, spinning it along and doing good. Yeah. So I'm glad that I've stood up for it. I've had to stand up for things in this industry, and I just want to keep my word. And you got to stay humble. You got to stay grounded. It's really very difficult when people get really angry easily, or they let pride go through. And so it's real important every day to kind of self-check and just there's a certain part of intuition that I'm really grateful. A lot of people come to me and go, you were right. I should have done that. And I think that's not something that is easy to prove on a resume, but it's just more, I feel like I have intuition. We should have done that, or we need to do this. And then they don't do it and they say we should have, or you see how it pans out. Yeah. And there's just not, what would you call that, Chris?
I would intuition, alignment. Yeah. Like higher knowing higher self, like communicating with you, and yeah, premonitions. It could be so many different things, so many different gifts. But I want to talk about bringing good people into our life, because there are not so great people out there, and there's also a lot of really great people out there. How do you attract really great people? What do you consciously do? What do you focus on about yourself, about how you show up in the world to attract great people to you, Wren?
And that is also what my book is important in explaining, of why we have the choice to choose boundaries for ourselves. Because what I have found is, if you look at like a statistical chart of women, I'm probably an outlier. Because I have people say, you can't be good at more than one thing, or you can't do more than one thing, or it's not fair that you're prettier than me and smart. Oh, she can't be smart. And so what happens is I might attract somebody that goes, she's younger than me. I have my own agenda. That's all. To me, it's separating. Okay, hold on. What do I want here? And setting those boundaries. As far as attracting good people, I know that I really don't want to do harm to people. And it's like that doctor's creed: first, do no harm. I don't know if you know that, but that's the first thing for a doctor. And so, first of all, it's like, I know that I believe in scripture that says, do not lie, do not steal. These things are my personal moral compass. And I know, just the way this book describes, you find out who you are, you find out what you stand for, and you stick with it consistently. And if someone wants to throw a fit like a toddler because some guy goes, well, I like girls like that because I like hair like that, or I whatever random agenda, they can approach me like, oh, I'll do business with her, but I don't really want to do business. I had somebody in the industry last year message me and say, look, you're pretty. I am not interested in doing business with you. I only want to sleep with you. I want to come over right now. And what's interesting is he was a publicist, and you're thinking, I would pay you if I would do business with you. Like, to just do publicity as one of your clients. And so you run into that. And so is it my fault because I attract that? No, but I can take responsibility for what I can, which is saying I have a voice, and God gave us a voice for a reason to sometimes have to, that's not the fun part. I wish everybody had good intention, but let's see. How can we attract? Do you have any ideas of how I can attract? You want to throw it there? Because I feel that I have to separate that I'm not responsible if you're attracted to me with ill will.
Yeah.
And bad
so the best thing that I'd recommend is celebrate and like focus on what you put your intention on is what you'll attract more of. So when you have those really great people who you interact with, like, shout about it from the rooftops. I made a quick post yesterday saying I'm so grateful how aligned I am with the people in my network, because like we're all so like committed to our mission and like making the world a better place. So I really love that. And we had a question from Paul in the audience. He said, and I want to like shape this so it's valuable for everyone. He said, hey Wren, can you help make a $400 million budget, multi-billion-dollar profit blockbuster happen? So we'll hear your response from that. And number two, for someone who is a first-time screenwriter and filmmaker, what steps can they take if they have big, lofty aspirations that they could start really making headway on certain projects they know are really destined for greatness?
Great. So I'll start with the second one first. So if you're a writer, I can't do much if it's not pretty much finished. So if you came to me with something half written, you could co-write it for money with somebody, but at least bring me something that's finished. And realize if you bring me a book, we can't just, unless there's going to be a big cost turning that into script. So try to do as much there. And then the next steps are email me. My email's in there. We can do an intake form. I'll do a free introduction call with you, and then we can take some steps forward to see if it's viable. Now, I'll tell you, I cannot even think of a movie that's been made for $400 million. I have been on set with a $200 million budget, which is Independence Day 2. Great experience. Jeff Goldblum was like, come over and take a picture with me. The PA was like, no. I was like, yeah. No, he was like, yeah. I was like, okay, sure. So, but even that made a loss. And so what you'll learn is the studio system, they balance their books at the end of the day. They look at their billions they spend in movies over the year, and that was a loss. And so they sometimes calculate that out. So 200 million, it's not impossible. I can literally think of a way to make an independent film that way that is almost out of this world, because there's only so many people that have 200 million to spare.
Right.
Think about that. Right. Think about, why would they invest in you? And why would that work? It's not impossible. It's just the amount of people that have scripts or screenwriters are so high.
Yeah.
But I feel like I figured out a formula. I've literally seen it with my own eyes. I've seen my clients get their money or get their distribution deals, and I'm really proud of that. But it's not, so that's another one that would be super unrealistic. And we'd probably have to go through a studio system, and the chances that they could completely steal your idea from you is still very possible. In fact, I pitched Secret Life of Pets in a hotel lobby in Santa Monica, and the man said to me, "That's a great idea. I will take that from you. I will steal that from you." And if you even go on Wikipedia and you look at the months they went into pre-production, it was right after I told him my idea. Wow. Now that is a film that made hundreds of millions and got sequels. And I had a man tell me, "I will steal that idea from you," right to my face at American Film Market in the Lowe's Hotel. True. So you go, okay, like I haven't even seen it yet because I'm like, oh man, I just know someone took that. And so when you've seen that happen, there's different ways to go. Let's balance that. And would you be happy? I mean, even 20 million is a lot these days. If you want to look at Bloodshot, I think it's called Bloodshot, what it made in the theater. They didn't do, I think they only made 7 million. Wow. And so, names aren't even, so that's what's changing too, is you could say it's a Will Smith movie, right, but the last one that came out didn't do well. So it's a very unpredictable world. What I'm passionate about is I feel that there are people with really good messages that really need to be empowered to be told them that are ethically good and morally good. And there are people in this industry that don't want them to be told, with the big companies and the big studios. Just, not all, but it's real. Yeah. And so for me, I'm going, okay, if I can help you and it makes sense, let's do it. Yeah. At least I care. I feel like I have a good heart in it. My intentions are right.
100%. Wren, you are a powerhouse and just deliver massive value. I know our audience wants to know how they can stay connected with you. What are the next steps they can take to get in contact with you? And remind us again who you really love to work with.
Yes. So directors, screenwriters, actors, unless you're like really famous, casting, you'll learn, is very low down the line, very, very last minute. But producing partners, studios, if you want to, fund movies, we can find a way to talk about that with, legally and do all that. But my email is ffyms@yahoo.com. That's funding for your movie script at yahoo.com, ffyms@yahoo. My name is Wren Barnes, it's probably on the screen. I don't see that right now. But yeah, if you email me, I'm willing to do a free 15-minute introduction call. You can talk to me what you want to do. We can talk about next steps, and I'll do a form to get some basic information on your project. And if I can help you, thank you so much for having me, Chris. This was a real joy. I hope this was helpful to somebody out there. So
thank you. Thank you, Wren. Thank you for showing up. Thank you for being the like angel, right? Angel in the industry that is, there's a lot of deception and not so great stuff. So I really see you as showing up and bringing that love, bringing that light, bringing the integrity, the ethics. You're really doing it in a great way. From what I know and from what you've shared so far. So just keep it up, keep showing up. And I'm excited to see the impact that you have over the coming years and decades because of the projects that you really give wings to so that they can fly and soar and make people money and bring people's dreams to life. Thank you.
Thanks, Chris.